My name is Omar Cliffton of Black Pulp Anthologies, Black Pulp Studios. I am cosplaying the Tyrant of Black Pulp's Black Tournament. And in character, well, I guess I'll say I've been around a long time. My universe is gone, my society's gone. I'm still ticking. Few million years older than I'd like to be, but hey, it's a good life. So far, nothing's tried to bite me or eat me. I haven't had to wrestle any kamukamungas. It's a good life. Last thing said, I am Black Sci-Fi.
Peace, welcome to Black Sci-Fi TV. I'm your host, Sean Aline, and today we got a special local legendary guest in the building, Mr. Omar Cliffton. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for the intro. I feel special now, I wore my good pants.
I want you to know that came from the heart. That wasn't just me saying that, all right?
Well,
that was real.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I look at you like you the legend.
Hey, listen, we could go all day, but thanks for being here with us. I appreciate it.
All right.
We wanted to get you on the show because this is all about the community. It's all about Philly,
right?
And we were saying, Philly artist Omar doing something that a lot of people haven't done, bring together other artists to do a comic book. Tell us a little bit about that.
All right, well, see, Black Pulp for me, it was like this idea that I had, actually when I first started art school, when I met a bunch of artists, everybody had come to Philly to learn, but I looked around and said, well, where do we work when we leave here? Because there's not really at least, for our lane with sequential arts, animation, things like that, this is more of a photography city from my understanding and design. So it was, for me at that point, it was, where am I going to work? I don't want to travel across the country. I don't want to work for Disney. And then I heard their contracts weren't that great. You work for a year and then you can't work for 6 months with anybody else, and other jobs are across the street.
Right.
Not feeling that. But, life happens. We spread out. And then me and my brother were talking. He said, what would be cool? If you did like an anthology. I'm like, okay. We get some independent artists, guys who want to tell their stories, who are willing to hustle a book. And so everybody puts their stories in the book. Everybody who's in the book, they do what the comic book store would do. They grab it wholesale, they go out, sell it. Once you bring back your money, you got enough to get more books and some pocket money. I'm trying to, teach some younger artists who may not know how to, quote unquote, hustle in the art game, how to get a product up and get out there and shop it the way Pepsi shops cola, the way Toyota shops cars.
Right.
So Black Pulp it's more of a banner for artists who want to say, hey, I can do 10 pages, I can have it done in a couple months, still take care of my life, and actually have product at the end of the day. Because most of the guys I knew coming up, they didn't end up keeping with their art.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes for me it's a little sad when a guy goes from, I have this great idea to, well, I'm just going to sweep this floor, pick up these napkins, and go home. Because, some people, you can kind of see an artist die when they stop making art, and you just, yeah, I used to do that.
Yeah, it's funny that you said it, because one of the themes that we've been discussing here at Black Sci-Fi TV is this death of an astronaut. And it's based on a short story by Turi Ganges.
Okay.
Where she speaks about a kid and his hopes being crushed. And you just touched on that. For you, what were some of the obstacles that you faced coming up as an artist?
For me, part of it was because I was a very young father, so it was like working, doing artwork, building portfolio, and then still having free time. And a lot of times, even now with Black Pulp, free time is hard to come by. I got to make phone calls, I got to also do artwork, and get all the other stuff out to social media and all that. And so even it's that piece of time that you need to really perfect your craft. And so that's kind of like where we were at also, because you might not be the greatest artist when you do your first 10 pages, but when you do your 50th 10 pages, you might be John Romita, you might be Sean Eileen, you might be Joe Mad, who knows? But I want to be able to give an artist that time, because traditionally they want you to look like money when you come in the door.
Okay.
I just want you to look like you want to work when you come in the door.
Yeah.
Because it's more of a hustle than I look shiny.
Right.
Let's get this work done, I feel.
So time being one of the greatest obstacles, then what's some advice that you could give to the younger generation of artists now, helping them on their path?
Planning. I think planning is everything, because even like now when I'm doing pages, I keep a small sketchbook. I might thumbnail a page and then set it next to a bigger page when I have time. I may have 2 hours at home at the table. I might find myself at the library. But to be able to conceive before you create. If you can have your plan and your path of what you're going to do, even with a writing, I was always taught you do your brainstorming. It was something like you would write the title, draw a circle around it, and character, draw a line there, and just create your path before you start walking it, so that you don't get lost along the way, you don't get turned around, you don't end up erasing and redoing the same scene because you didn't know what you were going to draw before you started drawing it. And so it's always to think ahead, plan, and kind of know what direction you're going in, even if it's just a single image or a story, before you start drawing, so you don't lose time figuring it out.
Yeah, I was the same way when I was young. I just thought that you just used to draw a comic book. I would just go to the page and just start drawing. And your story then. So Black Pulp is a collection of different comic book stories.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your particular story then.
Well, it's funny because with this, because we're actually doing an annual, and so the cover I did, I'm calling it Change, because we're actually changing some stories.
Okay.
So the original story I started was called Mikael. And it was the story about how this celestial warrior comes to a very young planet and meets a girl in danger. And he ends up transporting her back in time. And she learns about the history of her people and how they ended up in struggle, and also gains the power to save them when they come back to her time. But that was one of those things where, like, to be honest, I think we came up with Black Pulp on a Friday, and by Sunday I was already done 2-3 pages of Mikael. I was literally freestyling it. But then I have another story that I've been writing, and I said, well, now I want to work on the one that I put the most effort into, and I can kind of slide Mikael out and put in a story called The Last Stage.
Okay.
And that is the story about a world where people just have superpowers. Like 1/3 of people have powers, and that's caused trouble for the world. So laws are in place now for people with superpowers. And if you live in certain places, you actually have to register your superpowers so that they can find you a job and they can keep tabs on you.
Okay.
And this particular story begins in like a futuristic version of North Philly. And so what happens is a cataclysmic event happens. As always, law begins to break down, and now people have to fend for themselves.
Sounds about right.
And so you have people who have been hiding their powers, using them. They're still running from government agents, and all the while, I just like working with young girls. There's a certain innocence in a character of like a young girl between the ages of like 5 to 15. So they're looking for this girl. And it comes to find out that she actually has a power no one's ever seen before. I'm calling it magnification. Whatever she touches, she can create copies of.
Okay.
And so when we're running out of resources, we're running out of power, she becomes a very important piece to government officials, and of course, within worlds, other things begin to break down as the story goes on. That's the story I'm writing and drawing myself. And I'm also co-writing the story Black Tournament, which is our flagship book. Black Tournament is like Black Pulp's anchor, because anything else can come in and out, but this book is the one that we need to have something that's always there.
Call me crazy. I don't think I've ever heard that power before, the magnification power.
Yeah.
In all these years of people coming out with powers, I like it. I like the fact that it seems the model of it seems innovative, and that you're also coming from a business angle with these guys. How important is it to reflect Philly in your work? Or to reflect, I don't know if you have the black speculative angle or Afrofuturism. Can you speak on that?
That's actually something like, because when you start out, you don't know all these terms. You're just creating your work.
Right.
So I learned in my adulthood, it was always important for me to actually see the black face in comic books and things like that. Like, I'm one of the guys, I preferred Spider-Man in a black suit just because of the color change.
Okay.
And it's something that's kind of ingrained in me. I'm always looking, where's my face in this? Where do I fit in this world that we currently have? Because there's not a whole lot.
Right.
And especially from the urban environments, where even in our community, a lot of people are like, I don't want to touch that. I don't want to be a part of that. And I'm like, I don't feel that way. I'm not. This is where we are. This is what we have. This is what I got to work with, and I'm going to just do the best with it. And especially I've learned to like how, like the neighborhoods I come from, there's a certain beauty to what people would call the destruction of it. Like when I see a wall with graffiti and ivy crawling up it, I'm like, yo, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because you have man-made art and nature working together. And so depicting these environments and even trying to bring the speculative futuristic thing to it gives me a certain ground to play with, where I'm working with high technology, low modern stuff, and then nature growing within it, and trying to work these things around to something that is cohesive but also stands out on its own work.
Yeah. And it's funny you said that, because for other companies, other characters, if they're white and they are in certain neighborhoods, you don't think twice about it.
Right.
Batman is an urban character. Daredevil is an urban character. Ghost Rider, all these characters, but they happen to be white. But as soon as it's a face like us, so that's so true. For you, what's the future then of Black Pulp? What's the future for your studio as a whole?
Well, the future currently is another thing with time is I'm looking to build a more diverse web platform. You know, I have the current site. It's a Wix site, and that was I need a website right now, but I have a background in design and graphics, so I want to put more of my art ability into the website, and I want to get into more 3D and animation, but that's a long game. You know, like I'm currently building my 3D machine, but definitely giving a lot of information on the characters and keeping those things available to the public just at a click of a button, and doing some interesting things with mobile books and mobile comics, and trying to add like little pieces of animation and things like that on the phone or on a tablet.
Yeah.
Because I realize we don't want to let go of paper, but it's not going to stick around too long. Like we got all these screens, you know, people are probably walking around on their watches, looking at anime on their watches now, but we still got these books.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work these books, but I want to move ahead, because I feel like you always need to keep ahead of the curve in business. And I feel like Marvel and DC are over here, and the indie guys like just coming around the curve at times. And if I know how to do these things, I figure I should use it so I can help other indie guys say, this is how you get around that curve.
Right.
It's like racing. Anybody know anything about like race car driving? Well, you know, they have all these lanes and it's kind of shifted like this.
Okay.
Well, I learned from a guy, when you're turning a corner, you want to get close to that corner and hug it.
Right.
And you keep the same speed, but when you come around the corner, you can hit the gas and you'll pick up speed and go past the other racers. And so for me, it's like hugging that curve coming around the corner, because once everything gets running and you hit the gas, you have the momentum to fly past your competition and get that first place, that pole position. And because things are so locked up in the monopoly, we really have two comic book companies. All the other ones are kind of in some way subsidiaries of each other, like DC owns Vertigo and things like that.
Right.
So I want to create a lane for guys who aren't getting in there because they have such high standards.
Okay.
And that's why I want to get around that curve, because when somebody else won't give you work, come with me. We'll publish you now and we'll sharpen you up while you go. And so I need to get in a place where I can actually be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's why I want to move towards digital stuff and being able to say, hey, we're moving towards that direction, come and get in with us. So when we're there, we can just say, hey, grab your story and jump in line.
Okay. So for you, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. You were talking about developing and creating a female character.
Yes.
I know for me, I raised this topic on Facebook, and I faced a little opposition of a male creating a female character. Have you encountered any kind of feedback from that, of a man writing a female or a female writing for a man?
I haven't personally encountered it, but I do internally think about that.
Okay.
But for me, with female characters, I draw from women I know.
Okay.
So elderly characters may be resembling of my aunts, my grandmother, my mother, and these are real women. So you can't tell me I don't know my mother or my grandmother or my aunt.
Right.
You know, no one's an island. We don't not interact with each other. And my goal is to kind of depict the people I know and love in certain instances and give them a fictional basis, and that's where I draw a lot of my characterizations from. And so for me, it's like I hear the critique, but somebody has to write something. And it's unfair to tell me I have to write a book with all male characters because I happen to be a male.
Yeah.
That's a little biased to me.
So the indie lane that you're in, and you wanting to compete with some of the bigger guys, Do you feel that there's ever a chance that the indie market can reach some of these big guys? Are you okay with how the indie market is?
The indie market is good now, but I think we can. It's almost like the ability for presentation. And you know, they say great things come in small packages. Well, if you put two packages on the table, one's wrapped in a brown paper bag and one has a shiny gold wrapper, which one do you open first? Now, if I give you two packages with a gold wrapper, I say one from some people you never met and one's from a bunch of guys you know, which one you gonna open?
Probably go with that one you know.
Exactly.
All right.
And so I want to take the guys I know and I want to help build that shiny packaging around them so that they don't have to feel, oh, I can never compete with that guy, or I have to work and get up there. Nah, bro, you good as you are.
Yeah. All right. So tell the people where we can find more Black Pulp.
Well, you know, everybody's got a bunch of social media lanes. Right now, I'm in and out of running a Pinspiration Mornings on our Black Pulp Instagram. And once I get...
What is that?
It's Pinspiration. You know, I go to Pinterest when I'm getting ready to do some artwork. And if I see something that really hits the notes and the moves that I'm looking to work on, I save that into a Pinterest file, and then I take one or two of the images and I put them up on my Instagram and try to, you know, reference the artist.
Nice.
And there's the website. It's one of those Wix websites. It's long. It's blackpulp.wixsite.com.
All right. Not too
So,
bad.
but you can also just catch the link on the Instagram. You go to the Instagram, check our profile, and there's a link in the profile, which makes it a lot easier.
All right.
So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Omar. Thanks for spending time with Black Sci-Fi TV.
Oh.
Good luck with everything in the future, sir, and bring on those lanes. And we'll be back.